Well, my ceiling is completely gone. I have been making temporary makeshift covers for this that do not hold up. I tried casting a refractory lid with expired refractory the other day, and after about 3 days I went to pull it out of the form and it fell apart. Would have looked good, but this stuff just, it was past the shelf life. I will say that Josie and Eddie and Kelly and Ricky are making a lot of headway. Josie got this coat of paint on last night. Yes, very dark, but that's the color I needed to match the logo that's going on that wall. And we'll just have to put more lighting in, that's all. On top of everything else, my spring has given way. So I got to pull this thing out. I've already repaired it once, and I'm tired of ordering these things new. They're very thin to begin with, so what I did with this one, tack welded it back together. It is spring steel, so I have to be careful not to get it too hot. And I welded another piece of metal, which is a lawnmower blade section of it, to laminate the bottom just to help reinforce that. Well, it just gave away on me as I am fixing to get a whole bunch of molds rammed up to pour this Thursday. So I have this beast re-rammed, the Stoker steam engine sleeves. It is supposed to start setting in rain Thursday or Friday, I believe. So I want to have all this stuff poured and out of the molds before that sets in. It's supposed to drop down to about 22 degrees, which is just going to completely shut everything down. There's some squares that I'm trying to get rammed up, and I'm running out of I can't find my other flask with the pins. I got a bunch of them like these that don't have registration pins, where I just key them, but you can't do that if you got a match plate. So the first thing I was going to do was fabricate a metal lid with clamps on the back side and wrap ceramic fiber blanket around the bottom side where the heat is, and then have them come over the edges to where I can put a clamp on each side and on the front, possibly the back, I don't know, which is going to take all day to do. And now the muller spring is broken, so I guess today I'm going to work on the muller because I need to get the rest of that sand mold up in order to line this floor with molds and at least have this ready to pour by Thursday. So for you machinists out there, if your lathe that you're using every day strips the bull gear and you have to shut down for a week just to fix that, to machine a new bull gear just to get you by, to get this job done, that's kind of the way this works every single week. I have a lot of impossible challenges to hurdle, and it's the same thing all the time. Rarely do I have muller and furnace issues on the same day, but to make matters worse, the gas pump job, which is in brass, is due next week. I talked to the guy earlier today. Well, he called me and he let me know that the heat's coming down on him. There is a big event coming up in 2 weeks, and they've got to have these castings no matter what. So all this iron when I first talked to him, I was thinking about it, well, crap, I guess I'm just going to have to shut down everything and get on the brass. Well, I had already started on the iron, and that steam stoker sleeve mold, I'm not making that again, buddy. No, it's just too much work for one person. If I got to pour that, I may as well pour the whole floor. I'm not going to fire that furnace. It's a lot of work just to build the bottom up in the furnace. That takes almost all day. I don't have anyone here at the molding bench making molds for me as I do the maintenance on everything around here. Somehow or another, I'm going to perform miracles. It's probably hard to tell, but I texted my buddy Nate and Perry this morning, and I told them to keep me in their prayers because my stress level is at the max right now. I don't show it, I hope, but I'm at my wit's end. So I started mulling some sand. I don't want that to go to waste, but it's not enough to really start molding yet. I need a pretty good heap. So I'm going to stop right here, pull that spring out of the muller, focus on that first, get that fixed, get back to mulling sand, make the molds, get all the molds made, and then I'll focus on the furnace and get that lid made, and then I'll pour all this, and then the next day I'll break them all out of the mold, which will probably be Friday, and I will grind and knock the sand off of them, because this sand doesn't require needle scaling. It's doing an excellent job on the finish, thank goodness. That saves me about 2 days worth of unnecessary work right there. So I will start grinding on Friday and start stress relieving process as I get things lined up to try to recast a bunch of gas pump parts that have got to be in brass in order to have this guy his stuff sometime next week. And I'm forgetting a whole bunch of stuff in between. Well, let's get to it. I understand you guys are not here with me, but I try to act like you are. Like you're the ultimate moral support. And I appreciate that. So I had to chisel a lot of old clay and sand off of all the bolts just to be able to get to this mess. All right. And I was doing this the hard way to get to that spring, and then I found out I didn't have to do it like that. You know, live and learn. But you do have to disassemble a few things to get to that point. I can't use that elbow. Yeah, my elbow is still giving me trouble. My 40-year-old elbow is not feeling it today. And it really doesn't bother me until I twist my hand a certain way. I know. Why does that affect my elbow? I don't know. And I'll go ahead and unplug it while I'm thinking about it. Get to the bolts here under all this nasty mess. And I think all I got to do is take these 4 head bolts off, and then this whole apparatus will come off. Yeah, it will. And you know what? I just bought a brand new pack of wrenches. Ratchet wrenches. I'll use them. Well, I only needed a 3/4 inch ratchet. Only who's and I went to Horrible Freight. I know, I didn't want to have to do it, guys, but don't worry, I take my hat off before I go in there. It just feels sacrilegious. But they had a 3-pack of standard size end wrenches for 20-something bucks. So I went ahead and got it. But this is actually pretty handy. So I'm glad I did get the whole set. Yeah, it's coming loose pretty fast. That's good. And at this point, they seem to be working fine. Now, luckily, these holes go all the way through, so the sand does not accumulate down in those threaded holes. I still blow it out good before I put them back in. This has actually been a decent muller. It's not a heavy duty one. It's not the full industrial grade, but considering how much sand I mull in this thing, you know, the problems I do have with it are spread out. They're not back to back. When you look at that, when you have to work on this thing, it's not a major deal. Especially as you figure out how everything works. I'm going to go ahead and lift this up and out of the way for now. Actually, I can do it just like this. I don't even have to take it out. It is unplugged, by the way. I can just get around all this gunk. I'm trying to remember how. Okay, I'm going to have to get this threaded stud out of the way. I need to find another nut to screw on that. I'll be right back. So I have 50 of these laying around here, but they're all screwed to something, but I have to disassemble that just to put the nut on in order to make sure that's all turning together. I think it is, yep. Nope. My mail lady, Christy, she was up here earlier dropping off a package, and Charlie comes running up to her, and she knew the dog. And I was thinking, how do you know Charlie? And she said, I thought this was, I'm not naming their names to keep them anonymous, but she said, I thought this was their dog. And I said, it is, but he stays with me all the time. Well, except when she sees him down there. All right. What are we gonna do here? Is it gonna work or not? Yep, it's turning. That may be enough to, yep, that worked. I didn't have to pull it all the way out. I'm not a welder, but I play one on YouTube. My lawnmower still didn't quite make it right there. But we have enough room, I think, to put a third plate in between, I think. That's where I have to, we're gonna try to do that. I'm gonna try to go ahead and flatten this out and then weld one more plate there as a leaf spring, a three leaf spring. And we'll see what we got. Now this rod I was using, I don't know what it is. It's a gold color. I don't have any more of that. So I'm gonna have to use 6011 this time. And that's probably gonna crack. We'll see. What's important is that it gets this batch of sand mold. And then it'll break. And I'll be doing this again. But at least I'll get my batch of sand mixed. Let's get to it. I got a change of plans. You see how thin that spring steel is? Look at that. I got an actual leaf spring, and I think that will fit in that tight hole. And I'm gonna probably, instead of heating this up and bending it, I'm probably just gonna weld two, I don't know. Let's get this thing cut to the width first, and then we'll figure it out. Before you guys ask, my My neighbor didn't realize, 1 inch, he didn't realize he had leaf springs under there anyway. So I got to cut this at least 1 inch wide. Now that I realize I don't have a guard on this, I'm not going to video this part of it. Well, it wouldn't quite go through the slot, so I'm having to take it down some. I'm teaching Charlie how to run the metal shaper. I think he's catching on. This will now pass through that hole with no problem. Now, and I almost got it too short. I didn't catch that until now. The purpose for that spring is to keep tension on these wheels at all time. As you can see, they pivot up, and that spring holds them down. I use my calipers here to be able to reach over in there, and I want to have just a little bit of clearance. There is a, you know what, I didn't see that. Better go ahead and go down a little. Yep. I don't want that to be binding. That's at the bottom there, so we'll measure that. From there, we will put a bend in it here and here. So I went ahead and found the center, and I took my soapstone and I marked about where that radius needs to be. The actual apex of the bend is probably going to be closer to a 1/2 inch past these points. When I bend these legs, the inside has to be greater than that clearance I just measured on the inside of this. Now, for those of you that don't know, I got a good friend of mine that lives not too far from here. He's actually a Forged and Fire champion. He's an official blacksmith. His name is Derek Melton, and I sent him a text a minute ago to see if he was going to be home. I got thinking this will be cool to add to this video. Now I can catch him at home, run over there and get him to heat this up for me. I'll take my calipers to make sure we get the width right, and then he can re-temper it for me. Because I'm not a blacksmith, guys. I pour metal, I don't pound it. But there is a lot involved with the blacksmithing end of it that I wish I knew, but I don't. I have the general, I know how to heat this up with a torch and bend it and quench it. But then you have to bring it back up to a straw color, and I'm kind of colorblind. If I haven't told you, I'm not good with colors. On another note, what I was telling you earlier about I'm switching gears again. It looks like I'm gonna go ahead and jump on the brass gas pump parts immediately, because, and this is why, we're supposed to get ice around Saturday. There's a potential for us to get up to about a 1/2 inch of ice. Hopefully we'll miss that, because I think it was a year ago we were supposed to get an ice storm and it missed us, and I was already getting prepared to go to Pensacola and stay there till it thaws out up here. Well, again, it actually iced over Pensacola. So I guess I would have been going up north to get warm. I don't know, but hopefully we will miss that again and we'll have our power. With that said, each day is going to be critical now, since I cannot anticipate on knocking that job out over the weekend after I get the iron pour done. I'm just going to go ahead and put it ahead of the iron pour. I'm going to wrap up what I got. I may go ahead and bring the Stoker steam engine sleeves back inside the building until this all blows over. I can still do that. And but my main concern is that we don't go bumping into the mold. I want to try to keep it as rigid and solid as I can. I don't want to disturb it. Let's get this done. I did really good on this corner. I didn't tear it. I got the radius right. I messed up here. I got in a hurry and I didn't heat it all over just in that one spot, and I shouldn't have done that. So I may have to remake this. All right, so I got my spring laying down in the kiln. I got my set point at 1900 degrees, and it's still climbing. We'll see how long it takes to get there, and then we will let it soak at 1900 for a half hour. And from there, I'll quench it. Well, I don't have any oil. I thought I did. I was wrong. And I just burnt my element out. So my temperature's dropping. So I got to quench this now. That makes me sick. Now, not only do I have a furnace that needs maintenance and a muller needing maintenance, I've got a kiln that needs maintenance. That's okay. I've got backups for that kiln. I was trying to get everything I could out of it while I could. I've never run it up that high. I got up to 1550 and then the element burnt out. So I don't know what we got. We'll just have to see. Well, that's about as close to straw as I can get. Well, let's see how bad I messed up. This corner looks great. This corner does not. If it's going to break, it's going to break right there. Now this has to go, first of all, let me make sure. Yeah, it's going to sit in the stirrups good. And it's, yeah, I like that so far. But we can't go in this way with it. We have to fish it through here, and then we can rotate it. Alright, so I can tell you right now, we got to take some length off, I think. Feels like that stud is sticking up. Thought I had it all backed all the way out. And I did. So let me take some length off these legs where they're not, I don't want it to keep total. I want it to have just a little bit of slack in there, and I don't have that yet. Well, the spring's not supposed to look like that. I dumped sand in it after I dry ran it for about 5 minutes to make sure the spring was loose, not binding. And as soon as I dumped sand in it, it snapped right down the middle. I don't guess I got it to a strawberry color when I was trying to anneal it. Shoot. That looks like pure carbide. So anyway. So I have another bar of it right here. I still have to mill it down and get it to the right width where it'll go in there. And I am not going to do anything other than weld some legs on each end of this. I trust the heat treat is where it should be for this stuff. And I'm also gonna give it just a little more slack than I gave the other one, just if in the event that was putting things in a bind. It'd be quicker for me to go ahead and just cut this to length. I think it was 10 inches, and then I'll come back to the metal shaper and start chopping this down. I'm running out of time. Oh man, I should have covered these up. This is a much faster way than trying to nibble a little bit at a time away on the shaper. I don't care what the finish looks like. The other side now. Try to stay proud of that line just a little bit. I pretty much keep that same blade speed for all material. The blades seem to last forever as long as I do it like that. So that's not bad. I can deal with that. That's with the temper that's already in the steel, and it bent quite a bit before it finally snapped. Probably about, goodness, 30-40 degrees. So that gives me a good peace of mind on what I'm fixing to try next. I'm not going to change the temper of this. I'm going to leave it alone. I am going to be doing a little welding on it. I don't have any high nickel rod, as I said earlier, so I'm going to try to wing it with 6011 and see what happens. It's going to be down pressure the way I'm going to be welding these pieces in, so maybe it will work. I was at this point yesterday. As you saw, the thing snapped on me. I have not tried to heat treat this. I have not done anything other than weld 2 legs on each side. And I've got a little slack, so it will allow the wheels to come up a little bit. One of the things I have to be cautious of is this part of the casting. I hope that's strong enough to hold the pressure. If not, looks like I'll be casting one of these. And but let's hope not. Got to get this thing going. I'm going to go ahead and add sand. That's when the thing broke, is when I put the sand in. I'm going to dump my regular 50 pounds in it. We're going to see what happens. Well, are you ready? Keep your fingers crossed. That's a lot of upward torque on that spring. And I'm hoping I got enough slack there to kind of have a little forgiveness. We'll see. On the count of 3. 1, 2. It appears that's going to work. Knock on wood. I'm going to go ahead and put my funnel back on, and we're going to run this batch and see how it does. I think we're good though. I think we're in business. One of the next things later, I'm not going to worry about it right now, we just got to get all this sand molded up and get these molds made, is the fact that my plows are always wearing, so I'm going to have to do some work with those soon. But guys, I think that's going to work. I'm very happy to be to this point. So this is what I made, and I didn't try to heat this up and quench it. It's strictly a leaf spring, and I took and cut 2 short pieces to weld perpendicular to the ends of it, and I'm using 6011 welding rod, which at this point seems to be holding fine. There are no side forces on these legs or tertiary forces. It's strictly up and down. I just molded, you can tell the wet from the dry, but I just molded that just now, and it's doing really good. So for now, but my next concern now is I getting these molds made and pouring them. I'm going to try to start pouring tonight. Once I get a heap of sand mixed up, I'm going to get after it. Some molds require more pressure in certain areas than others in order to disassemble it correctly. And when I say that, what I mean is you want your pattern to stay in certain molds as you separate them. And sometimes that requires a little additional pressure around that. And this is the casting. I've probably already shown this before, but originally it came with this follow block, and it would set down in there. You'd mold it up. I'm not pushing it down in there because the humidity has it, the wood has moved a little bit. Back to what I was saying. This came with its own follow block, but I don't like these very steep slopes. I ran the first half in green sand and parted it down the way I wanted it, and then I rammed up this sodium silicate mold, which is durable. I've used it probably 40 times now on this 12-part casting, 12 piece. That's how many I've screwed up so far trying to pull this job off. Back to these steep slopes. It's very easy to break that whole chunk off if you envision that block right there with those steep sides. I would much rather have a gradual slope, so that's what I did. I rammed this up, and then I coped down all the way to the bottom to make more of a slope here instead of that drastic increase. And as far as the mold itself, it hasn't been a problem as once I started doing it like this. So I'm going to put this in my sodium silicate block, and I'm going to go ahead and put the drag on. Now guys, I keep getting chewed out about this. Everybody says, the drag is the one with the pins. No, the drag is the one that's on bottom. You can use pins or not in a drag. It don't matter. And don't try to argue with me. I don't have the muller quite where I want it yet. I'm having to drop my capacity to about 3/4 of what I was mulling in order to get this, in order to keep from tripping breakers. So that spring is actually a little too tough. Now, if I can figure out how to back that spring off, give it a little more leeway, I could handle 50 pounds. And all I got to do is take that spring back out and grind the legs a little shorter to give me that leeway. I don't have time to fool with that right now. This guy has got to have this stuff. I'm trying to keep him out of hot water. As you saw earlier in this video, everything around here is requiring maintenance. And I can't do it all. Not in the speed people want things produced anyway. Poor Charlie. He's back at his house today. It's fixing to freeze tomorrow night, and his other owner, she she didn't want him out and about during that mess because he'll freeze to death if he's not at either her house or my house. So she didn't want to take any chances. So he's detained, as you can see, and he's not happy about it. I'm all for dogs having their freedom, but sometimes, just like Dollar, this was earlier today. She lives to roll in the mud or excrement from cows. It don't matter to her. The stinkier, the better. Now I have to be careful up here because that mold is only about this deep from the top, right in this center area. So I'm going to stop right there. And I'm not going to use my big rammer. I'm going to use my club. And then I'm going to gently tamp this down here. I'm not hitting it hard. Now I'm going to repeat the process. Hard around the edges, because it's deep around the edges. And it's very shallow up here. I don't want to do anything to break that pattern because I have already done that once. Not this round. I did it the time before. I'm just going to round this all kind of evenly now that I got that where I want it. Now you do have to, I was telling you, I think in the last video, I wasn't sure if you need to do this or not. Yes, you do need to score the surface, scratch it up. But when you glaze that clay by ramming so much, it pushes the clay to the surface and then leaves a nice sheen that will not secure or bond the next layer. Now this is the drag I'm ramming. All right, hopefully that's going to stay in the bottom, in the drag. And it did. If that had stayed in the sodium silicate mold, it would have tore all that mess up. Now, even though I've got a basic coat down to this thing, there's some spots I'm going to go in and remove a little more sand. It put me in the ballpark, but it's not quite where I want it yet to pull. Yeah. A few little spots right down here I want to get rid of. Try to get this to pull as clean as I can. And not hook anything. Alright, let's see if that'll pull. Alright. Now, I want this to slide out of this mold and stay stuck in the coat that we're going to ram up. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of, I'm not pushing hard, I'm just kind of setting it in there and wiggling it around, opening up any possible places it could grab. And it took off that piece right there, which is fine. That's perfectly fine. I'll do this one more time just to I have a little electric blower coming. It'd be nice if I had it today. All right, so we are ready to ram the coat. And this flask has to pull apart parallel. That feels good right there. The sand is pretty clumpy and some of it's pretty wet, but because because of this little dude, I can't run it on the dry side. It has to have a little more dampness to the sand than normal, so it's not going to sieve as easily as the drier sand that I usually run through here. Now those fingers, that slot between the fingers, that's the trick. We don't want to break sand off there. We want to keep that slot. And it's harder than it looks. But one of the tricks after 40-something times that I have discovered is, if I go ahead and round this really hard, right there in the fingers, in between them, that hopefully will stay stuck in the coat when I flip it upside down, when I separate it. And then it'll make it a lot easier to remove from the coat. So that's why I wanted it to come out of the drag as easily as I did. I'm surprised Dollar isn't cowering around in here. She doesn't like those gunshots. Okay, so like I said, I'm going to round that really hard down here in the fingers. And just going to go with normal pressure around the sides. Hitting it pretty good right there. That's where the fingers are. As I said, I'm pushing that clay to the surface, so we need to scratch that up. We want all this to stick. These little molds don't take that much sand, which is nice. Gotta make sure I stay square there. I don't want to hit my pattern. I'm going to disassemble this upside down. I'm going to dump that excess out of the pouring basin. Alright, this is where I take a deep breath and wish me luck. Pulled clean. That's what I want. Always nerve-wracking doing that part. But both slots between the fingers remained intact, so we're good. You know, that's the most frustrating part about mold making. You go through the whole works to do everything just right, and you don't find out if you did it right until the very tail end. Can't find out when you first start. This looks good so far. I'll scratch a few vents in there. I didn't mean to go all the way to the edge. I usually drop back about 1/8 of an inch. But I don't have my readers on, so I don't have 40-year-old eyeballs. Good enough. The only thing left to do is cut the gate. So I'm gating in to the lowest point of the casting, which is right here. And I'm taking it straight to the sprue. All right. I've got 6 that are decent already made, so we only have to pull off 6 more. Once I get these 6 made up, I'm going to pour them as cold as I possibly can, and we will and then we'll see how we did. I will say that the basins are not sinking in immediately. Oh, it's a beautiful day out, isn't it? And it's supposed to get down to freezing tonight. And My mold's getting wet again. That's just too bad. So this is not what I just cast. These are some of the ones that I deemed usable several months ago. But I kept running into issues with them. Actually, that's not going to make it. So that's got to go. Let's see. Yeah, for the most part, those look pretty good. Now let me show you what my biggest issue was on these. This is some of the rejects. It's that little crack down there in the corner. Yep. And another one. That's a nice one. And this one. What do you think about that? So we just finished pouring 6 more to replace the bad ones, and I'll show you those right now. First of all, the molds were wet. I guess it's the humidity, so I guess the next batch I'm going to have to torch them. But looky there. I still got holes in this one. This one. That one. That one, that's a nice one right there. And this one. And this one's got just a wee little hole right there. I have made some minor changes on some of the others to try to put risers in there in different spots with no avail. Except for one place that I have not put a riser. And it took me 46 times now to do this, to figure out the problem. I possibly, I'm not guaranteeing anything. The one place I have not put a riser is right here. That's going to be a headache to cut off of there. But at this point, what have I got to lose? So I'm expecting the customer to come in 2 days to get these castings. He's going to be mad. It is about 3 o'clock on Saturday. We're supposed to have a lot worse weather tomorrow with below freezing temps after 4 o'clock. So I have until 4 o'clock to get some more sand mold several different times and try to pour this several different times more. So anyway, that's okay. I'm doing the very best I can, and it's still not enough. I have even regulated my temp down to 1900 degrees. And actually, after looking at these, I probably could have pulled it. Probably would have been better off running around 1850. I think I could have got away with it. I don't know. I'm assuming my pyrometer is pretty accurate. The calibration sticker's from 1942. Now things are starting to get chaotic. The weather's not, I mean, so far I still got warm enough weather to mull sand. So I may or may not have another pour on this video. We'll see. Well, my friends, I am going to wrap this video up here at this point, and I will show you the ongoing progress on this in next week's video. I had to stop and run to Walmart and get some dog food. We're going through quite a bit now. But anyway, I am going to come back out here tonight, videoing more, of course, for next week as I resolve this issue with that shrink crack. And then once we get those out of the way, which we don't have that many to go, once I can get at least 6 more of these castings finished that are decent, We got to move on to the handles, which I've been having a lot of problems with. But I'm trying to dial the temperature down as close as I possibly can without it freezing off. A strange noise. Before I leave, I wanted to thank my Patreon members. I actually dipped into the funds this week to use some of the expenses towards the addition. We're going to try to finish this up and have it ready to present to anybody that wants to come in February, end of February anyway. So thank you. I've been saving it for when we're strapped, and right now it couldn't come at a better time. On another note, next month the slab for this building will be paid off, and I can't tell you how relieved I am of that, because I really don't like taking out loans if I could possibly help it. I prefer to pay as I go. And I know it takes forever to get anything done like that, but I can't predict how our work's going to be a month, 2 months in advance, let alone over the next 2 or 4 years of the duration of a loan. So it's a big relief to get this knocked out. So I feel like I've accomplished something there. Hopefully we don't have to do that again. A lot of stuff was riding on. We had to get the slab done at that time in order to get other things moving. I hope you're hunkered down through this severe winter storm that some areas are getting. Hopefully it's not going to be too bad here. It is going to get down in the 20s, possibly below a little bit, but that's only going to last for a little over a day. And the chance for freezing rain looks like we're going to be in the clear. Looks like it's a little too soon yet to say. But anyway, thanks for hanging out with me, guys. It means a lot, especially when I'm under this kind of stress. All right, I'll see you next week. For those who have been asking about the Windy Hill Foundry hats, these are now available on my website, windyhillfoundry.com, under stores, or you can click on the above link. These are on the pricey side, but keep in mind the shipping is included. Have a good day.